All right, it's time to assemble the Dragon Strand large hybrid cage. Now you may be wondering, Bill, what are you doing sitting on the floor? This is actually the best place to assemble a tall hybrid cage, or really any cage. No matter the manufacturer, if you are putting together sides with screws, you need to be doing it on a hard, flat surface. Carpet does not do the job. You are putting screws in and they need to go in straight. They go in at an angle because the foundation is lopsided, then your cage is going to be lopsided. That's just the fact of the matter for any manufacturer's cage. The tools you're going to need for this is really just one Phillips head screwdriver. Now, I also recommend a bolt to put in the screws and scissors to cut open the packaging. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. Now, there are two skills we need to go over before we actually get started. The first is how to drive a screw into an aluminum frame. When you screw a screw into an aluminum frame, once you get to the point where the screw is fully seated, you have to stop and you have to feel where that point is. If you go further than that, you will do what we call stripping the screw hole, which means that the more you turn, it won't grab the aluminum anymore and it'll just spin freely and be useless. And so this is why I recommend, highly recommend, that you use a manual screwdriver. An electrical screwdriver won't know when to stop and it will just keep going. This is one of the more common problems that people have, is when they use an electrical screwdriver and they just keep screwing in and the screw strips the hole and just spins uselessly. Now, it's hard to explain how to do this, but it is something that's easy to pick up. You just screw the screw in until it's fully seated, tight, and then you stop. The second skill is how do you drive a screw into the aluminum frame when there's no pilot hole. And this is what you do with both the hydration mounts and the fogger. There are no pilot holes because it's up to you as to where you want to place them. Now, there are two ways you can go about driving the screw in. The first is kind of the brute force method, to where you firmly hold the screw in place and you firmly turn the screwdriver until it punctures the aluminum frame and then it goes in. This is effective, many people do it, but you have to be careful that you don't slip with your screwdriver and put a hole through your screen. The one place that we're doing this is on the top panel, which is a screen panel. Now, the alternative is to find where you want to put the hydration mount or the fogger input and then hold it in place with masking tape and drill a pilot hole. A pilot hole is a hole that you drill that's about half the diameter of the screw that's going into it. And that means you don't have to put the force behind it to puncture the aluminum frame, you're just screwing it in. Now, the first thing you want to do when you get this box in is you want to unpack it, unpack everything carefully, and make sure that there's no shipping damage. These are tough boxes and they're designed for shipping, but things happen. If you do find that any of the frames are bent or any of the pieces are broken, contact Dragon Strand immediately at bill@dragonstrand.com and Dragon Strand will get you a replacement. But make sure you inspect all of the pieces and you give a comprehensive list. So with that, let's open it up and let's take a look at the pieces. Now, when unpacking, there is some very tight packing in there. You want to make sure that you're looking at all the nooks and crannies in the box to make sure that you get all the pieces. The absolute first thing you want to do is download the assembly instructions from the dragonstrand.com website. There can be changes, and so this ensures that you get the absolute latest in the assembly instructions. Each of the bags are labeled as to what they do, so you can take a look at the assembly instructions and check off to make sure you've got each one of the bags. This stack is your Dragon ledges, and then you have your various door stops. All right, let's go ahead and start assembling. To start the assembly, we're going to assemble all of the panels, which means we're going to take the aluminum frame and we're going to put the PVC or acrylic on the frame. Now, it's important to note that this green film is just a protective film and it's meant to come off. And so the film may be on the inside for some panels and the outside for other panels. It's not meant to stay on. I have had some people who decide, hey, I like this green, I want to keep it, but that's not what it's there for. If you want to have a backdrop or a different color, then get an official vinyl backdrop and apply it correctly. This is a protective film, and it's not meant to be a coloring inside the cage. So to start assembly, we're going to match the label up top with the frame and then with the screw pack. We're going to start with the right panel. The first step to assembling of the side is you're going to have to make sure that the screw holes here line up. These are pre-drilled holes and they will line up. Now the two sides are not symmetric. So there's only one way that this piece will go on the frame. And so if the holes are not lining up, flip the piece over and then try again. I recommend leaving the labels on until you've aligned the holes so you know which way is the top. And that limits the number of times that you have to flip the piece over and over trying to find which way it goes. And once you know which way it goes on the frame, then you can go ahead and take off the protective film and lay it on your aluminum frame. Make sure the holes all line up. Then we're going to get the right panel screws. Now, you'll notice that there are more holes than there are screws, and that's because there are two types of holes drilled in this side panel. There's the holes that are meant to affix the PVC panel to the frame. That's what we're going to be using these for. And then there are larger holes that are meant for overall cage assembly and will be what you screw the panels in with. It may be a little bit confusing at first, but if you put the screw in and it just turns freely, that's a cage assembly hole. And don't worry about it. Take the screw out and put it into the next hole, which it should catch because it's a smaller pilot hole. When you're putting your PVC onto the frame, you want to make sure you put the PVC on the inside of the frame. And you know the inside of the frame because it has this groove along the inside edge. So PVC covers that side of the frame. Now once you have your panel assembled, it's time to put on the dragon ledges. The dragon ledges use the caps and the screws that are in the ledge mounting hardware. And this is what your ledge piece looks like. This ledge is going to go on the inside of the panel. At this point, the inside is the side where the frame is hidden. So you don't see the frame, that's the inside. This is the outside of the panel because you can see the frame. You're going to have two sides and one back that have dragon ledges. On the sides, the dragon ledges are going to go horizontal. On the back, the dragon ledges are going to go vertically. This is a side panel, right side panel, so it's going to be horizontal. Of course, you have the pre-drilled screw holes, so you don't have to make a decision. Now these go on by a cap that meets up with a screw. Do not worry about the screw not going all the way through. It's not supposed to. So I'm going to put the screw in through the back and the dragon ledge on the front. Now this is a point where it takes a little bit of coordination to get it right. What I do is I put the cap in the dragon ledge and then I align it onto the screw and just hand screw it at this point. Once you get all of the caps and screws on, then you're going to tighten it with the screwdriver. When I tighten it with the screwdriver, put my finger on the cap just to hold it in place, and your dragon ledge is on. You're going to repeat this, 2 for each side, horizontal, and then 2 for the back, vertical, and repeat all of these steps. You have 2 acrylic panels, and that's the clear plastic. There's the main door and the upper front panel. We're going to be handling these exactly the same way as we did with the PVC. Let's get to it. Look for the main door frame, which says main door, top, and I find the acrylic panel that's going to say main door top. Now the acrylic is going to have the protective covering on both the front and the back, and so take off the protective covering so you can put it on the frame. But be very careful with the acrylic. And we're going to find the screw bag that says main door screws. All right, once we have all of the screws in for the main door, we're going to do the exact same thing for the top front panel. That's going to be this smaller frame. On the bottom of the upper face panel, you're going to see that there are 6 holes. And that is because we're going to be putting on a door stop. You will also notice that there are 2 larger holes up top, on the top of the face panel, and these are for cage assembly screws. And so with the bag that is labeled upper face panel screws, there's only 4, and so we're only going to put them in the sides. We're going to take care of the top and the bottom later. Okay, so you see the top panel and how it is only the screws on the side and not on the top and the bottom. So now we get to the step where we're going to be installing the hardware, meaning the door stops, the latches, and the hinges. So let's go ahead and we're going to start with that upper face panel, the one that we just did, the one that we just put the acrylic on. And so let's get the door stop screws. There's actually we're going to be using 6, and there's actually 12 in here because we're going to be doing the exact same thing with the flip up service door. That is, we haven't touched, it's a screen panel, but let's go ahead and do them both the same way. So the way we put on the door stops is you get that very small thin strip that goes down on the 6-hole side first, and then on top of that strip goes this larger strip. Now you want to make sure that the larger strip sticks out from this from the panel. This is what the door is going to rest against. And then I'm going to do the same with the service door. All right, so we have the service door as well as the top panel done. You can see how this is stacked up. So you have that skinny strip as a spacer, and then the larger strip as the door stop. And for it to be effective, it has to stick out the top of the panel. So now we're going to put on the latches and the keepers. Let's start off with the service door. In this case, you see the pre-drilled holes there. That is going to be for one of these latches. This is what we call a latch, and it attaches to what we call a keeper. Just fits in like this. So we're going to have a latch on here, and then on the side frame, which we'll get to next, we'll put the keeper. Note that there are 2 on each side, and so it can get confusing as to which side to put the latches on, which side to put the hinges on. The way to figure this out is to just put the latch or hinge over the holes and make sure the holes line up. Do this before you start screwing the screws in. Now we've got one more set of hardware to put on, and that is on the top panel. And for this, we need to find the right type panel. Remember, you have 2 screen panels that'll look like this, but the top panel is going to say top panel on it. The other one is actually your screen floor, and it's going to have no holes drilled along the sides. That's how you can tell the difference, other than the sticker. Now, this top panel is going to have both the hydration mounts as well as your fogger input. Now, this is the stage where it requires a little bit of planning on your part, because you have to decide where you're going to put both the hydration mounts and the fogger input. So you're going to have 2 hydration mounts, and these are going to be used for your standard misting nozzles like Mist King or Climist. You'll notice that one of the holes is a 1/4 inch diameter, and there will be a grommet for that hole. If the grommet is installed in your ledge, then take it out because you don't want to install the ledge with the grommet in. The grommet goes in after it's installed. Now these hydration mounts are designed specially so they can go anywhere along the upper inside of the top panel. Then you just have to decide which direction you want your misters to go. Generally speaking, I have them in the front into the 2 corners. And if that's the way you would want it, then you just have to identify which is the front of this panel. And that's easy because the sticker says top panel back. So I know that this is the back and then this is going to be the front. You're going to want to put the misting nozzles on the inside. That means you're looking for the spline where the screen is attached. This is the inside, also where the sticker is. This is the inside, and so these misting nozzle, the hydration mounts will go on this side. Now, it doesn't matter where on the frame you put this, but you have to make sure that the edge is flush. You do not want it going over the edge because then you're going to interfere with the upper face panel being installed. Now, if you are confident in your ability to drive it through, you are welcome to do that. Otherwise, make yourself a pilot hole. If I want to do the pilot hole method, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it where I want it. I'm going to hold it in place using masking tape. Then I'm going to choose a drill bit, which is about half the diameter or less of the screw I want to drill in. And then I'm going to drill a hole through the middle. You only want to go through the first side of the aluminum frame. And that's it. You don't have to worry about putting the mister in yet. That'll go in once the cage is all together. Save these for later. Put them in a safe place. And now when it is time to put on the fogger, that needs to go on the outside. And so if this is the front, that's the back. My general plan is to have a basking bulb in the back. And so I want my fogger to go over in that back corner. And to install the fogger, I simply put it where I want it, and then I drive a screw in. To start assembling the Tall Hybrid, find the top panel and the back panel and attach them with 2 of the cage assembly screws. The back of the top panel has the sticker on it. Although if you have put on the hydration mounts or fogger input, it shouldn't be too hard to figure out the orientation. Next, put on the bottom frame. Be careful about the orientation for the bottom frame. Find the side that has the groove, and that side goes down. The smooth side faces the cage interior. You can find the front of the bottom frame because it doesn't have any pre-drilled screw holes in it. So the back of the bottom frame is the side opposite the front. Attach the bottom frame with 2 cage assembly screws. With the assembly on its side, find the side panel that goes on the exposed side. The best way to figure out what side goes where is to find the keeper on the bottom that goes to the flip-up service door. This goes by the bottom frame. As long as you keep the dragon ledges on the inside of the cage, you should be able to figure out which side goes where. Now a note of caution. When you place the side panel in place, be careful that it does not slip down and rip the top panel screen. I highly recommend putting the panel in place, holding the side panel to the screen panel, and screwing that in first. When you look at the front of the cage, the side to your left will have 3 keepers, and the side to your right will have 1 keeper down at the bottom. And as a reminder, a keeper is the part that the latch hooks onto. Once your first side is attached, you can carefully flip over the assembly and attach the other side. Then flip the cage on its back and lay in the top front panel. This panel goes in with the black door stop strips facing the bottom of the cage. This is where the door is going to rest. Attach with 2 screws on each side and the front top. Next, let's get the flip-up service door. Put it in place and then screw it onto the cage assembly using a single screw from both sides. This is what allows the flip-up service door to flip up. To complete the cage assembly, you would now lay the acrylic door in place and screw in the hinges. Though, in practice, I suggest leaving the door off until you're done setting up the cage interior. That way, you can protect your cage door from all the bumps, scratches, and mishaps that happen when moving branches around. Next, you only have to place the cage on top of the drainage tray and decide whether you would like to use the screen floor or the solid floor. The solid floor helps with floor strength if you want to put potted plants on the floor. The screen door is used if you take advantage of the dragon ledges and your floor is clear. The screen floor gives you maximum drainage. And your assembly of the Dragon Strand Tall hybrid cage is complete.